What if I told you that you do not need charts, coding, or the next online trend to start making money from home? While most people chase noisy side hustles, some are quietly growing simple plants in backyards, spare rooms, and even patio containers. And demand for fresh herbs, natural products, and specialty crops may be growing faster than most people realize. Some growers are turning one plant into multiple income streams by selling it fresh, dried, or as a simple homemade product. In this video, we are looking at 7 small space crops that have steady demand, low startup costs, and real earning potential. You do not need acres of land or expensive equipment. You can start small, learn as you go, and build something steady over time. Let's start with one of the fastest growing options. First, one is microgreens, the chef's secret turned homegrown income. Microgreens are simply young vegetable greens harvested early, usually within 1 to 2 weeks of sprouting. They're small, tender, and packed with flavor. Think of them as the first, most vibrant version of plants like broccoli, radish, sunflower, or pea shoots. You don't wait for the full plant. You harvest at the stage where flavor and texture are at their peak. For years, these were mostly seen on restaurant plates. High-end chefs use them to add color, freshness, and a sharp burst of taste. If you ever saw a beautifully plated dish with tiny greens on top, chances are you were looking at microgreens. They lived in the background of fine dining, quietly doing their job, never really stepping into the spotlight for everyday growers. Now that's changed. Research suggests that microgreens can contain concentrated levels of certain nutrients compared to their mature counterparts. Because they're harvested so early, the plant's energy is still packed into those first leaves. That's part of why health-conscious buyers have started paying attention. You're not just getting flavor, you're getting a dense, fresh addition to meals that fits perfectly into modern eating habits. But here's where things shift from interesting to practical. Microgreens are one of the fastest crops you can grow. Most varieties are ready in 7 to 14 days. That means you're not waiting months to see results. You plant, water, harvest, and repeat, over and over again. This quick turnaround creates a rhythm, and once you find it, it becomes predictable. That predictability is where income starts to form. You can grow microgreens in trays, on shelves, even in a small spare room with simple lighting. You don't need acres of land. You need consistency. Restaurants, local markets, and health-focused customers often look for fresh, reliable supply. And because microgreens are delicate, local growers have an advantage over large-scale distributors. Now, there is one thing you need to respect here: cleanliness. Since you're harvesting at such an early stage, maintaining clean growing conditions matters. Use clean water, quality seeds, and keep your trays and surfaces sanitary. It's simple, but it's not optional. A clean setup helps ensure your product stays fresh and safe for the people who are buying it. So why did something this practical stay under the radar for so long? Mostly because it was boxed into the world of chefs and upscale dining. People saw it as decorative, not profitable. They didn't realize that what works in a restaurant can often work at home, especially when demand expands beyond the kitchen into everyday health-conscious consumers. And that's where we are now. Microgreens sit at the intersection of speed, simplicity, and demand. You're growing something people already want, in a cycle that repeats every couple of weeks. You don't need to guess if it will grow. You just need to keep showing up and doing the process. Think of it like this. It's like running a tiny green factory in your home, quietly producing small batches of value every single week. Second is garlic, the quiet money bulb. Garlic has been called the poor man's gold for generations, and once you understand it, that name starts to make sense. It's a simple bulb, easy to grow, familiar to everyone, and used in kitchens every single day. You plant a clove, give it time, and it multiplies underground into something far more valuable than it looks. Historically, garlic shows up just about everywhere. Ancient Egyptians fed it to workers for strength. Traditional European households kept it close for both cooking and everyday wellness practices. Across cultures, it wasn't seen as rare or exotic. It was dependable. Something you always had on hand, something you trusted. Modern research suggests garlic contains compounds like allicin, which may support general wellness. That strong smell you notice when you crush a clove. That's part of the plant's natural defense system, and it's also where much of its interest comes from today. In simple terms, garlic is active. It's not just flavor, it carries properties people have paid attention to for a long time. Growing it is straightforward, and that's part of the opportunity. You plant individual cloves in the fall, let them sit through the cold months, and by the time warmer weather returns, they've done most of the work underground. When you harvest, you don't just get one clove back, you get a full bulb made up of many. But here's where most people get it wrong. They treat garlic like a quick crop, when in reality, the real value comes after harvest. Proper curing is key. You hang the bulbs in a dry, well-ventilated space and let them slowly lose moisture. This step turns fresh garlic into a shelf-stable product that can last for months. Skip this, and you risk spoilage. Do it right. And you've created something you can store, transport, and sell on your own timeline. And that timeline matters, because garlic doesn't force you to rush. Once it's cured, you're not under pressure to sell immediately. You can wait for better prices, better demand, or the right buyer. That flexibility is something most crops don't give you. So why do people overlook it? Mostly because it feels too ordinary. It's in every grocery store. It's in every kitchen. People assume that means there's no money in it. But what they miss is the difference between generic garlic and specialty varieties. Hardneck garlic, gourmet strains, unique flavors. These are the ones people seek out, and they're willing to pay more for quality they can taste. When you step into that space, garlic stops being common and starts becoming a product. And the beauty of it is, once you grow it well, you can replant part of your harvest. Each season builds on the last. Your supply grows, your experience grows, and your output becomes more predictable. Think of it like this. It's like storing small bundles of currency underground, then pulling them up, drying them out, and watching their value hold steady or even increase over time. Third is mushrooms, the indoor income engine. Mushrooms have long been called nature's hidden harvest, and once you understand how they grow, that name fits perfectly. Unlike most crops, they don't need sunlight in the traditional sense. Gourmet mushrooms like oyster and shiitake grow indoors on simple materials like straw or sawdust. Instead of soil and wide open space, they thrive in controlled environments where you guide the conditions. Historically, mushroom cultivation goes back centuries. In parts of Asia and Europe, growers developed quiet, careful systems to produce mushrooms in caves, cellars, and shaded structures. These weren't large farms. They were controlled spaces where people learned to work with moisture, air, and time. It was a craft more than a field job, passed down and refined over generations. Modern research suggests mushrooms contain compounds that may support immune function and overall nutrition. They're rich in unique nutrients and natural compounds that you don't always find in typical vegetables. That's one reason demand has grown steadily. People aren't just buying mushrooms for flavor anymore. They're interested in what they may support as part of a balanced diet. Now, here's where things get practical. Mushrooms grow on what's called a substrate. That could be straw, hardwood sawdust, or other organic material. You inoculate that material with mushroom culture, keep it in the right conditions, and let nature do the rest. With the right setup, you can grow vertically, stacking shelves or bags to make the most of a small area. A basement, a spare room, even a converted closet can become a productive growing space. But mushrooms do require respect for the process. Clean technique matters. You're working with living cultures, and they need the right environment to thrive without contamination. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it does need to be consistent. And if you're ever tempted to forage wild mushrooms without experience, it's best to avoid that path. Stick to cultivated varieties where you know exactly what you're growing, so why don't more people do this? For a long time, mushrooms carried a reputation for being difficult or risky. People assumed you needed specialized knowledge or expensive equipment. And while there is a learning curve, it's far more approachable today than most realize. Once you understand the basics, the process becomes repeatable. And that's where the opportunity shows up. Oyster mushrooms, shiitake, and other gourmet varieties are in steady demand. Restaurants want them fresh. Local markets want reliable suppliers. Even direct-to-consumer buyers are looking for quality they can trust. And because mushrooms are delicate, local growers have an edge over large distributors shipping from far away. The biggest advantage, though, is control. You're not tied to seasons in the same way as outdoor crops. With the right setup, you can grow year-round. You can plan your production, adjust your output, and create a steady rhythm that fits your space and schedule. Over time, that rhythm turns into something dependable. You're not guessing. You're producing. Think of it like this. It's like taking a dark, unused corner of your home and turning it into a quiet, steady income machine that works while the rest of the house sleeps. Fourth is lavender, the calm, that pays you back. Lavender has long been known as the plant of calm. But most people only see it as something pretty in a garden or a scent in a candle. In reality, it's a highly versatile herb that can be turned into oils, dried bundles, sachets, and simple personal care products. It's one of those plants that looks gentle on the surface but carries real value underneath. Historically, lavender was woven into everyday life across Europe. People used it in their homes to freshen rooms, in linens to keep things clean-smelling, and in simple preparations for relaxation. It wasn't a luxury item back then. It was practical. A quiet, reliable part of daily routines that made life feel a little more balanced. Modern research suggests that lavender's aroma may support relaxation and better sleep quality. That soft, familiar scent interacts with the senses in a way that helps the body wind down. It's not about strong effects or quick fixes. It's about creating an environment where calm becomes easier to reach. Now, from a growing standpoint, lavender is surprisingly approachable. It thrives in well-drained soil, plenty of sunlight, and doesn't demand constant attention once established. That makes it a strong candidate for low-maintenance growing. You're not chasing it every day. You're guiding it, then letting it do what it does naturally. Where lavender really stands out, though, is in how many directions you can take it. You can harvest and dry the flowers into bundles. You can create simple sachets people place in drawers or under pillows. With the right process, you can even move into essential oil production, though that requires proper methods and care. Concentrated oils are powerful, so they should be handled thoughtfully and used in moderation. This flexibility creates multiple income paths from the same plant. Instead of relying on one product, you can diversify: fresh, dried, or crafted. Each form reaches a slightly different kind of customer, and that spreads out your opportunity. So why has lavender been overlooked as a serious income crop? Mostly because people have treated it as decoration, something nice to look at, maybe nice to smell, but not something that produces value. It got labeled as ornamental, and once something falls into that category, people stop asking what else it can do. But when you shift your perspective, lavender becomes more than a plant. It becomes a resource. A resource that connects with how people want to feel calm, rested, and grounded. And in a world that often feels rushed and noisy, that kind of value stands out. Think of it like this. It's like growing a small field of calm right where you are, and watching that calm slowly turn into something people are willing to bring into their own lives. Before we move on, take a second and think about what you've seen so far. Out of these first few, which one actually fits your space and your lifestyle right now? Not someday, not in theory, but something you could realistically start with. That's really where this begins. If you're finding value in this kind of practical, self-reliant approach to income, go ahead and like the video. It helps more people find ideas like this. And if you want more grounded, real-world strategies that you can actually use, consider subscribing. Alright, let's keep going, because the next ones might surprise you even more. Fifth is saffron. The thread's worth more than they look. Saffron is often called red gold, and once you see how it's made, that name starts to feel accurate. It comes from the delicate stigmas of the crocus flower, tiny red threads that have to be picked by hand. Each flower produces only a few strands, and every single one has to be carefully harvested, which is why it's known as one of the most labor-intensive crops in the world. Historically, saffron has been prized for thousands of years. It was used as a spice, a dye, and something of status in ancient cultures. Kings and traders valued it not just for its color and flavor, but for the effort it took to produce. It wasn't something you stumbled into. It was something you respected. Modern research suggests saffron contains antioxidants that may support general wellness. These compounds are part of what gives saffron its deep color and unique properties. Even in small amounts, it carries a strong presence, both in the kitchen and in traditional uses. Now, at first glance, saffron might seem out of reach. People assume it requires vast land or special climates, but that's not entirely true. Saffron can be grown in relatively small plots, raised beds, or even containers if the conditions are right. What it really requires is attention and patience, especially during harvest. Each flower blooms for a short window and timing matters. You collect the stigmas by hand, gently, without damaging them. Then comes the drying process. This step is critical. Proper drying preserves the color, aroma, and overall quality. Rush it, and the value drops. Do it carefully, and you end up with a product that holds its worth. There's a rhythm to it. Plant, wait, observe, harvest, dry. And even though the yield per plant is small, the value per gram is where saffron stands apart. It's one of the highest value crops by weight you can grow. That means you don't need large space to create something meaningful. You need precision more than scale. So why isn't everyone doing it? Because saffron has a reputation. It's seen as exotic, complicated, something only grown in faraway regions with specialized knowledge. That perception alone keeps most people from even looking into it. But when you break it down, it's not about complexity. It's about care. It asks for your time during specific moments, especially at harvest. It rewards attention to detail. And it gives you a product that stands out in a crowded market because not many people are willing to do the work. That's where the opportunity lies. You're not competing with mass production. You're stepping into a space where quality and care still matter, where small growers can produce something truly valuable in limited space. And over time, as you refine your process, that value becomes more consistent. Think of it like this. It's like walking through your garden, bending down to a simple flower, and carefully collecting thin red threads that, little by little, add up to something that carries the weight of gold. Sixth is ginseng, the root that rewards patience. Ginseng has long been known as a slow and steady plant, the kind that doesn't rush, doesn't demand attention every day, but quietly builds value underground. It's a root crop, grown not for leaves or flowers, but for what develops beneath the soil over time. And in herbal markets, that root carries real weight. Historically, ginseng has been used for centuries in traditional Asian practices, often associated with vitality and balance. It wasn't something people harvested quickly. It was respected, sometimes even protected, because of how long it took to mature. The older the root, the more it was valued, not just for its age, but for the story that age represented. Modern research suggests ginseng contains natural compounds that may support energy levels and help the body adapt to stress. These compounds develop over time, which is part of why maturity matters. A young root is not the same as one that has been growing slowly for years. And that brings us to the key idea here. Ginseng is not a fast crop. You're not planting today and harvesting next season. You're committing to a longer timeline, often several years before the root reaches its full potential. But during that time, it doesn't demand constant work. What it needs is the right environment, shade, well-drained soil, and protection from harsh conditions. In many cases, a shaded backyard or a wooded area can be enough. Once established, ginseng grows quietly. You check on it, make sure conditions stay right, but you're not managing it daily like faster crops. It becomes part of your space, something developing in the background while you focus on other things. There is one important thing to understand though. Patience isn't optional here. It's the entire model. If you try to rush it, you lose what makes it valuable. The real return comes from letting it mature fully. That's also where proper care matters, making sure the environment stays stable and the roots remain undisturbed until they're ready. So why has ginseng fallen out of favor for most people? Because we've been trained to expect quick results. Fast growth, fast returns, immediate feedback. Ginseng doesn't fit that mindset. It asks you to think years ahead, not weeks or months. And for many, that feels too slow. But for those who understand it, that slowness is the advantage. While others chase quick wins, you're building something that gains value quietly over time. And when it reaches maturity, especially older roots, the market recognizes that value. You're not just selling a product. You're selling time, patience, and care that most people aren't willing to invest. And the beauty of it is, once you start, you can stagger your planting. Different batches at different stages, creating a long-term cycle where something is always maturing. Think of it like this. It's like planting a quiet investment beneath the surface, one that grows slowly, out of sight, and then one day reveals its value all at once. And the last is aloe vera, the plant that keeps giving. Aloe vera is often called the plant of 1,000 uses, but most people only know it as something sitting on a windowsill, quietly collecting dust. It's a succulent with thick, water-filled leaves, and inside those leaves is a clear gel that has been used for generations in simple, practical ways. Historically, aloe shows up in households across many cultures. People kept it close, not as decoration, but as something useful. It was often turned to for basic skincare and everyday needs, a kind of living resource you didn't have to run out and buy. It was part of the home, something you relied on without thinking too much about it. Modern research suggests aloe contains compounds that may support skin hydration and help the skin maintain its natural repair process. That cooling, soothing feeling when you apply the gel isn't just in your head. It comes from the plant's natural makeup, which is why it continues to show up in so many personal care products today. Now here's what most people miss. Aloe vera is incredibly easy to grow. It doesn't need constant watering. In fact, too much attention can do more harm than good. It thrives on neglect in a way that few plants do. Give it light, occasional water, and space to grow, and it will slowly multiply. Small offshoots, often called pups, begin to form around the base, and each one can become a new plant. That's where the opportunity begins. You're not just growing one plant. You're growing a system that reproduces itself over time. You can sell whole plants, especially to people who want something low maintenance in their home. You can harvest mature leaves and offer them fresh, or you can take a simple step further and create basic, value-added products for local buyers. There is one thing to be mindful of. The inner gel is the part most commonly used, while the outer layer, sometimes called latex, should be handled carefully and used appropriately. Keeping your process clean and simple goes a long way in maintaining quality. So why has aloe been overlooked as an income source? Because it's too familiar. People see it as a household plant, something everyone already has or can easily get. And when something feels ordinary, we tend to stop looking for its potential. We forget that everyday items can still hold value, especially when they're fresh, local, and well cared for. But when you step back, aloe is more than just a plant in a pot. It's reliable. It multiplies. It serves a purpose people understand without needing an explanation. And in a world where people are moving back towards simple, useful things, that kind of plant has a place. Think of it like this. It's like having a living first aid kit in your home, one that quietly grows, divides, and turns into something you can share, sell, and build from over time. Income from home does not always come from screens and fast-moving trends. Sometimes it grows from small systems you build with your own hands. The people who succeed with this choose one crop or idea, learn it deeply, and grow over time. In the beginning, consistency matters more than scale. So pick one thing and take a small step this week. If this approach makes sense to you, like the video, subscribe for more practical ideas, and share it with someone looking for a simpler path. I'll see you in the next one. Just a quick note before you go. The income potential from any of these crops depends on your effort, your consistency, and the demand in your local area. What works well in one place might look different somewhere else. Results can vary based on how you grow, how you market, and how you build relationships with buyers over time. There's no single outcome that fits everyone, and that's okay. It's also worth taking a little time to understand your local regulations, especially if you plan to sell food or plant-based products. Requirements can differ depending on where you live. Approach this with patience, stay consistent, and treat it like something you're building step by step.